First of all, I've been lying to y'all, and I need to apologize, because I said that never again on this channel would I review another stylus for the Apple iPad, but here I am. Today, I've got one, and I'm gonna be reviewing it. As you can see here, it is the weirdest stylus I have ever seen. It looks like there is a rubber band wrapped around it. It's not actually a rubber band. This is a cord that plugs into the audio jack of your phone, your iPad, your Android tablet. It works on a bunch of different devices. And it's just so weird, I gotta talk about it. This video is sponsored by the .space domain name. Choosing the right name for your website could be difficult, but choosing the right domain just got easier. Welcome to .space, the first ever domain name that provides a haven for creative souls on the internet. Whether you're a freelancer, agency, artist, hobbyist, or just looking for a domain name that really inspires creativity, .space is for you. Your domain name is your unique niche in the world. Imagine .space being your space, a new beginning, a bright new canvas. Whether creating a new website or porting over your existing website, make sure you check out the discount code down below in the description. Onto the video. So let's take a look at what comes in the box. Right here, it's going to tell you that this has pressure sensitivity, it has palm rejection, there's a shortcut button, there's a magnetic pen holder in the box. Also, this doesn't require any batteries, which is a nice touch, and this is compatible on Android and on iPads and iPhones. So that's pretty cool. Around the back, it tells you some other information, like the cord is going to plug directly into your iPad or Android tablet, but your device is going to need an audio port, a little headphone jack port, so the new iPads, any kind of phones that do not have an audio jack, this isn't going to work with those. Also, it talks about the pen holder part, how that works, and there's some replacement nibs in here too, so let's open this thing up and let's take a look at what we have. So I'm going to set the box back there. Looks like these are our instructions. Yep, these are our instructions that tell you how to connect it to various apps. So that's going to come in handy. Here we've got a space for something. I don't know what this is. This must be the pen holder. And obviously this is what we're going to spend most of our time looking at. This is our pen. Now, as you can see, something that's really important and worth pointing out that's probably going to turn some people off is this disc tip. It is not like a normal pencil tip. It's got this disc tip, and I'm curious to see what that does to the accuracy as we're using the stylus to write and draw. Also, we have our cord here. I got the blue cord, comes in a bunch of different colors. I like the blue best. Nice little pull tab that makes it easy to take off, and then we just have to there we go, get it off the pen. It's not that hard. I think I'm making this harder than it is. There we go. And there's our cord. So let's find a device. I have an iPad mini here, which has a nice headphone jack for me. Let's plug this in and see what it does. And while I'm plugging this in, I want to tell you a couple things about this. First of all, it's up to the app manufacturers to actually implement this stylus. That's really important because it doesn't look like many people have. So like Procreate does not have the ability to use the smart features from the stylus. I can still come in here and I can still draw with the stylus. I don't get any pressure sensitivity. I don't get the palm rejection. I don't get any of the benefits that you would expect from a smart stylus. So this is the same thing as buying a couple dollar stylus off of Amazon or something like here because none of the cool features are working. One app that does, probably my favorite app that does, is Art Studio Pro. That does support this device. Let me take a look really quick on their website to see what other devices this supports. Flip a Clip, which is an animation app. Medibank, it supports Medibank. It supports iBez Paint. Art Studio Pro, which is what I'm going to be playing with here. And then a couple other notes apps, you know, annotating PDFs and things like that. So that's about it. If you're really curious, definitely check out the website before you go, but this is not supported by many art apps because it is up to the app manufacturer to support this pen, and I guess a lot of them at this point have chosen not to. So let's go ahead, let's boot up Art Studio and let's take a look at the basics here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to my preference to make sure that the pen is actually going to connect. There we go. Scroll down here to connect. Sonar Pen connected, good. So let's take a look at the basics of this pen. First thing I want to take a look at is the accuracy. How easy is it to close shapes? And it's actually pretty easy to close shapes. That was one of the things that surprised me when I first started using this, is how accurate it is. Even though I tend not to like these disc tip styluses, this one works pretty well. And I kind of like using it. One thing that I have noticed is palm rejection is, it's not good. It says it's okay. but it's really not. It's kind of hit or miss. I'm not getting a lot of zooming in and out when my palm is on there, but the lines are acting kind of funky. So that's kind of unfortunate. Let me undo some of these lines here really quickly. The next thing I want to take a look at is the pressure sensitivity. So I'll start by pressing really hard, and then maybe I'll go a little bit lighter, and then I'll go harder. Now, one of the reasons it's hard to see any difference, and I can see a difference, it's definitely thicker over here and thinner over here. But one of the problems here is that it's hard to find a pen to test pressure with in Art Studio. That's one of the reasons I use Procreate over this, is because I get more flexibility. I use pressure a lot in my work to get thicker and thinner lines. And trying with the pen tool, that's really thick, thin. No, that's not showing me anything. Let's change the size. Thicker, thinner. Yeah, I'm not seeing a whole bunch of difference in the pressure here. And I'm going to be testing this out against the Apple Pencil, and I think that's going to give us a much better idea of how the pressure works and how this thing works out. So let me set that up. So for the drawing on the left, I'm going to be using the Sonar Pen, and for the drawing on the right, I'm going to be using the Apple Pencil. So let me grab my pencil, or I should say the inking brush that I've chosen and played around with a little bit, feeling pretty comfortable with. Yeah, that's the one. Let me make it a bit bigger. There we go. And I'm going to speed through this so you can see how this works. And then I'm going to shift over to the Apple Pencil and we'll see how that works. Let's do this. All right, so that was the Sonar Pen. Now I'm going to unplug this. I'm going to set up my Apple Pencil. Yes. And I'm going to make sure that this thing is paired up. And we're going to see how this all works with our Apple Pencil. All right, so there we go. There's my test. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to turn off my pencil layers just to give us a better idea of what we're dealing with here. And there's a couple things I noticed. One, I think my palm made some dots when I was using the Apple Pencil, which is kind of interesting. But outside of those couple dots, I think the Apple Pencil dramatically outperformed the Sonar Pen. And there's a couple key things that I wanted to zoom in on here. The first is it was much easier for me to make a light line. Whoops, let me turn on my layers real quick. It's much easier for me to make a light line with this than it is with the Sonar Pen. The levels of pressure in this feel way better, and they feel way more responsive. And I could see that the most like on lines like this, where I could start off thicker and kind of get thinner and then get thicker. And here I am, I'm just connecting my Sonar Pen, going back here, and I'm going to try the same thing here. If I go thick, okay, it thinks I'm moving it. Hold on, let's try this again. If we go thick and then thin and then thick again, you can see it's not varying that much, especially compared to the Apple Pencil. The other thing I'm seeing on a lot of these lines are the starting points. It seems to take a second before that starting point begins. I can see it right here. I'm going to point to it with my pencil. It starts off thin and it starts off a little late. This starts off thin and starts off a little late. I could definitely see it in these fast hatch lines. Most of these I tried to start on the black and move over. It was much easier, much more consistent to do this with the Apple Pencil over here. But I see those kind of strokes all over the place. You could tell where I started this line and started this line. It just doesn't really... I can tell that it's picking up pressure, it's just not picking it up well at all. You also probably noticed as I was drawing, the palm rejection with this isn't too good. Now the Apple Pencil left some palm prints right here, so that is definitely worth noting. But this, every so often, it would think I was trying to zoom in and out. That's frustrating. Several times my palm picked a color over here. Little things like that happen. And the funny thing about palm rejection is that even if it works 90% of the time, that's just not good enough. So I'm going to open up Medibank because that's the other iPad app that this works with. Here we go. And now that Medibank is open, let me make sure that the stylus is actually connected here. All right, so my Sonar Pen is connected. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. I just have a normal pen. Hopefully this works. Heavy line, thinner line, heavy line. So I can definitely pick up the pressure sensitivity way better in Medibank than I could over in Artflow. Let's try something. I'm going to try making a line here, and let me see about the start and end point of lines, what I do, quick hatch lines. So I'm trying to start on that line, and it seems to be doing better here. So I bet a lot of the performance of this pen and how this pen works is really dependent on the app makers to implement it properly. And I've heard that from other pens that I've reviewed as well. And unfortunately, that doesn't really help us as the end user. At the end of the day, I don't really care whose job it is to make a pen work, but if the manufacturer makes the hardware and the people who make the software have to work together, it makes it that much harder to make a good product. So overall, I'm giving this mixed reviews. The other thing I noticed is that this cord does tend to get in the way. Obviously, drawing without a cord is much, much better. But overall, this pen has performed better than I expected it to. But I'm still definitely going with the Apple Pencil here. Let's try this thing out on some Android apps and see how it does there. So here we have the Galaxy Tab S4. This thing came out last year. It's a really nice Android tablet, even though the new one has just been announced. The S6, going to be reviewing that soon. This came with a pen. This uses Wacom's own tech inside the pen. So this actually is a very nice pen. I'd say it's comparable to the Apple Pencil, not quite as good. Palm recognition isn't quite as good, but in terms of just drawing experience, this is really good, you know, laying down those heavy lines and then thinner lines. I can get a really nice variation here. You can clearly see where the thinner lines are, where the thicker line is. So this is a very nice pen. It performs well. Let's plug in our Sonar Pen and let's see how this does. And while I am plugging this in, I do want to talk about this a little bit. It works on even fewer Android apps than it works on iPhone, iOS apps. This app here is called ArtFlow Studio. It's one of the better Android apps out there for drawing and painting. I really like it a lot. Fortunately, it works really well with this app. There is an extra plugin you do have to download in order to make it work. It does not work with Medibank Paint on Android, but it does work in iBez Paint X. So if you're interested in that, that's going to work. But really, those are the only two like drawing, painting Android apps that you get is iBez and this, ArtFlow. Those are the only two apps that actually have support for this pen. So let's see how this is going to do with a heavy line and thinner line, heavy line and thinner line. And this is so much better than what we were seeing over on the iPad. This actually looked comparable to that Wacom pen. Now, one thing I will note, and you're probably seeing it here, you're seeing some wobble. I don't think that's the fault of the pen as much as it's the fault of my hand. One of the problems here is that this tip is really, really slick. When I was using it on my iPad, what was happening is that I have a screen protector on this thing. I don't know if you could see kind of the matte surface of my screen protector, which makes it really nice to draw on. I don't have a screen protector on this. It's really slick. And one of the things that this pen does really well is it gets me a little bit of a resistance. It's got a little bit of a rubbery tip to it. Because this has so much surface area, it's hard to get a nice smooth line. And I don't know. Oh, that's the other thing is that this cord, oh, this is frustrating. This cord can draw a line. So when you're drawing, your cord is going to hit this thing and the cord is going to leave extra lines. And like there, the cord might also make your tablet zoom in and out, which is really pretty frustrating. So if you were going to use something like this, I probably would check out a screen protector because that's going to give you, you know, a lot better, more confident lines, easier to kind of check those things. It does come, it says here on the box that replacement nib for a brand new drawing experience. Where's that box? Let's, there it is. Let's check this out. I want to see how different this drawing experience is on a slick screen like this, because that's going to probably make all the difference in the world. All right, so here's the new nib. It looks just like the old nib, so I'm going to take the old nib out. I'm going to set it there. Going to pop in the new nib. Okay, I can't tell the difference, but that's probably because there was like a minute in between. I'll do this real quick. Then I'll be able to tell the difference, and I'll know which one's better. Okay, that feels identical to me. This has absolutely no difference. Hold on. That's still really slick. That is still really slick. There's no difference between these two nibs. All right, maybe there is. I can't. Okay, so I can't tell the difference between this brand new drawing experience here that I just installed on my tip. But I got to take their word for it that there's some difference. Maybe I just can't tell on the surface of this device. Here's kind of my take on this thing. First, This thing is way more accurate than I expected it to be, and to be honest with you, at first the disc tip really threw me for a loop. However, after using it for a little bit, I've kind of gotten used to it. It's not as bad as I at first thought it would be. Palm rejection. It's not good. If you get one of these, do not expect it to have any kind of palm rejection. As far as the pressure goes, it really depends on the app maker in order to implement that properly. Maybe it's one of those things in Artflow, I think I can go in there and I can play with the pressure curve, but expect to do some fiddling and expect to do some things with this to get it to just feel like a normal, like, pressure sensitive smart stylus. Lastly, the cord. I am not at all a fan of the cord, but again, you're only going to be paying $35 for this as opposed to, $100 for an Apple Pencil. I think if you have a newer iPad, you're probably just going to want to go with an Apple Pencil. I know it costs more, but it's so much nicer. It is totally worth it. If you have an older iPad, this might be worth checking out. So I'll link to the stuff down below. So if you do want to check it out, you can grab that link. And if you've used this, let me know down below. What do you think? Are you still happy with the purchase? Would you recommend it to a friend? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you in a couple of days.